Welcome to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green, where you'll discover actionable strategies to help your student to reach their academic goals, to excel at standardized testing, and to plan for the college admissions process painlessly. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Green.
Hey everyone, Steve Green here, the Make the Grade podcast. So glad you're joining me and a fantastic guest today. Hey, you know what I know? I know podcasting is really cool. I've been doing it 2+ years, 150 episodes, actually more than that. And I know a lot of you out there would like to learn about podcasting. Raise your hand if you want to start your own podcast, or if you have your own podcast, or if you have dreamed of having your own podcast, because guess who my guest is today? What'd you say? Yes, you're correct. My guest is named Elzie Flenard. He is from warm and sunny Wisconsin. I'm saying it a little sarcastically because it's January. And this guy, man, he is an expert on podcasting. You think I'm good? No, maybe you don't. But if you think I'm good, wait to hear what Elzie has to say. His business is called Podcast Town. And he's going to tell us a lot about podcasting. So listen up, wherever you are, whether you're a student, whether you're an entrepreneur. This podcast is about giving you actions, giving you tools to accelerate your path to success. And trust me, you get a good podcast going, you make it compelling, and you make it interesting and fun for people, you can blow your audience up really quick. Elzie, how you doing?
I am fantastic. I am super excited to be having this conversation.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. Some people, I got to drag them here with, thread them. Hey, let me tell everybody about you a little bit. Then we're going to get right into it. Elzie is a storyteller. He's a storyteller. He unpacks topics from unexpected directions, weaving myriad influences into his music. You do music too?
I do.
You gonna sing?
I am not.
Are you talking about like with an instrument? You're not a vocalist.
I am.
That's
a vocalist.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're not singing today. Anyway, through music, speaking, and podcasting, society, business, current trends, there you can predict what you're going to hear. Suffice it to say, it's probably different than you've encountered. Really interesting. Why do things happen? How do they drive your behavior? Most importantly, what do you think? Elzie wants to know. So let's do it. So let's talk about this. Elzie, you look like a young guy. I mean, we haven't met, and I'm not going to Wisconsin this time of year and telling you that right now. But how'd you get into podcasting? What flipped the switch for you? I know why I did it. It's not about me though. Why'd you get into podcasting?
Yeah, it was sort of on accident. I was working my 9-to-5, trying to figure out how to escape. And very long story short, I wanted to learn from people who were doing business successfully. And my bright idea was I was going to start a podcast, invite them on my show, and learn from them. So that's what I did.
Good idea.
Fast forward to today, my plan worked. Here we are.
How many episodes have you done?
So on my one show, so I have 4 different shows, but on my flagship show, the show I started in 2016, we have around 100 and it's around 200 if you include bonus episodes and all that good stuff.
Did it work? I mean, you learned a lot, right?
I learned.
I met some cool people.
I met some very cool people. Yeah, I would have to say if I were to give an evaluation on how well that plan worked, I would say it was an A+.
There you go. I got 11 out of 10. What do you? Okay, a lot of people to podcast when they get into podcasting, they think it's as simple as just talking. Right. I'm here to tell you, I'm going to assume you might as well. It's not that simple, right? What are some things that people might not think of that you're going to tell them they really need to think of before they start a podcast? Maybe it's technical, maybe it's equipment, maybe it's their title even. Some people don't realize how important your title is. But what's kind of like podcasting super basics? What would you say?
Yeah, I would actually say the main thing with podcasting is really understanding why you're doing it in the first place. if you want to become the next Joe Rogan, you probably have already started off on the wrong foot, right? Because that, for a number of reasons, right? There's only one Joe Rogan. I think if you approach it and you understand that it's a relationship builder, it is a brand builder, and it's a way to serve and give value, then you'll be successful. I think if you want to make money from it and that's your ultimate and only goal, um mm, 7 out of 10 times you'll be disappointed, just because if that's your motivation, that'll drive sort of how you approach things, and that for the most part won't work. I think if you want to again build relationships, add value, and help others get where they want to go, you'll be successful. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, when I started, you could just get on a microphone and talk, because not everybody had a podcast. And I would go to networking meetings and events, and I would say, hey, I have a podcast, and people would be, they would have this look.
What's that?
Like, what is a podcast? Now, when I go to networking meetings, not only does everybody know what a podcast is, but most people have one too. So quality is more important now than ever. Just having as good a quality as you can at that time. You don't have to have the microphone I have. You don't have to have the Rodecaster Pro soundboard and all the fancy trinkets, but that for a very reasonable price, you can get a decent microphone and some headphones and sound like you care.
Do you know how to How do you know how to
Rodecaster
Rodecaster Pro, by the way? How do you know how to Rodecaster Pro? I got the matching mic. Maybe that was a good one. But you're right, though. You make a good point, and I'm gonna underscore this a little bit. Content is very important. I work with a lot of people that podcast, and I know you do too, Elzie. It's not super smart to just wing it. I mean, you can be spontaneous. Don't get me wrong. I don't think you should read from a script, but you got to be genuine, right? It's a little different when you have a guest on, because I do a lot of solo podcasts too. I'm not sure if you do. You can get into that if you want. Monetizing is a whole nother chapter. Monetizing a podcast is not easy. The easiest way I found to do it, and I'm not going to tell you I've been super successful at it, is by getting sponsors. But to get sponsors, you got to have big listenership. You got to have, be an audience as people want to be advertising on. Let's talk about a business owner. So I'm a business owner. I say, you know what? It'd be kind of cool to have a podcast. What would you counsel that person? Like how could somebody grow a business, or maybe grow their audience?
Yeah. I made the declaration as the mayor of Podcast Town. This was a couple of years ago, Stephen. I said that in the next 3 to 5 years, if you are a business, you will be in the podcast space in some form. You'll either be hosting a podcast, guesting on podcast, or sponsoring a podcast. That was my declaration.
Okay.
Now I must make a revision to that declaration and say that in the next 2 years, if you're a business owner and you're not in the podcast space, you will be falling behind. You're hosting a show, you're guesting on shows, or you're sponsoring a show. I recommend doing all three, but at least in one of those areas, then you're already falling behind. The reason why is because podcasting is, in my book, the number one way to build relationships. And depending on what kind of business you're in, that's probably going to be important to build a relationship.
Yeah, probably.
Right. That's the name of the game.
Do you think podcasting is today maybe where social media was, I don't know, maybe 4, 5, 6 years ago, in terms of kind of mainstreaming into all of society?
I would say yes, in a big way. In a big way. The big boys are here. They're here to stay. And they're here for a reason. Amazon didn't get into podcasting because it was a novelty.
Yeah,
right.
Well, right.
I mean,
ESPN, somebody told me, and you may want to fact check this, but ESPN, because they got so many experts and basketball people in every sport, under their umbrella, it's like 90 podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just a logical next step to extend their reach and to take advantage of the ears that they have.
Yeah. Let me tell you real quickly how I got into it. I was always a writer. I always enjoyed writing. And so when I wrote, I wrote books, I wrote magazine articles, I was a columnist for a newspaper for God's sake for a while. That's a tough gig. Anyway, so my first entry into the digital world was blogging. So for me, blogging was a way to bring my writing, which was normally, well, obviously in print, but literally in print, like, on newspapers and things, into more of a portable space. So I'd write a blog. Now I had to try to market it and advertise to get people to see it. Then flash forward several years, the podcast to me was a way to bring my blog to life. A lot of my early podcasts were really just not reading, but using the content in a lot of my blogs for the major point of that particular podcast. But I think for most businesses, I look at it as there's three things you can accomplish. One is first of all, giving advice to potential clients or existing clients, right? So I'm in the education world. I give some tips about test taking, or I give tips to entrepreneurs on how to create a course or whatever. I think the second thing is brand building. And the third thing I find is elevating your status as a subject matter expert in your vertical. Now, there may be others, but I think those three are really important. Can you give an example? You've helped a lot of people set up podcasts, right? Mm-hmm. So the name of your business, Podcast Town?
Yes.
Or is that the name of your podcast?
That's the name of the business is Podcast Town.
Okay. So I'm a business owner. I'm listening to this thing. Man, this sounds good. I want to set up a podcast. I'm going to call Elzie. Take us through the steps, not in, amazing detail, but where would you start? How does it progress? What point's somebody ready to fly solo?
Yeah. So we have what we call our CRAB process, CRAB. And that just stands for create, record, arrange, broadcast. So we always start out, with the end in mind, what our goals are. Then we create a podcast brand around that goal. And then we record, right? Sometimes that's virtual. Sometimes people come into our studio to do so. And naturally, we're coaching and consulting and advising every step of the way as well. And then once we have the content recorded, we arrange it, right? We are taking the video clips or the social media posts or the blog article or whatever micro content that we've deemed necessary to reach our goals. We arrange it and then we broadcast it. We get it out there on social, via email, via website, and on the podcast website.
Is there any business that's a podcast would suit more than another?
Some would say yes. I say no. And here's why. Because my earlier declaration that you will be in the space of podcasting, right? So let's say you're in a not so sexy industry, like, I don't know,
tutoring.
You're a chiropractor.
There you go.
Who wants to hear a chiropractor talk about chiropractic?
Health, but health, more broadly, there's a lot of things they can talk about. I know what you're saying.
But here's where I'm going with this. You don't necessarily need to talk about chiropractic, what you do, because people want to know the person behind the business, behind the brand. So your podcast doesn't have to be about your business. It could be about your love for sports or for I don't know, astrology.
You like to cook,
whatever it is, right? Because the point is you want people to know, like, and trust you. People do business with people. They do business with people they like, know, and trust. Yes, what you do comes later, right? So part of my role as the producer / partner is to help people figure out where they belong in the space. Some people have the personality of paint. Nobody wants to watch or hear them. So they probably wouldn't be a good host. And so what we do is we work with them and say, okay, well, you should sponsor podcasts because you would make a terrible host, right? And so part of the idea is figuring out where they belong and helping them master that area.
Their podcasts, I guess, are grouped like music into genres. Can you talk about this? What would be a genre of podcasting? What's hot? What's fading? What's on the rise? Where are people listening right now?
Yeah, I don't listen to a lot of them, but true crime is popular. A lot of people like comedy. Lifestyle seems to be sort of taking off right now, where it's just a group of friends talking about what happened yesterday on the news
It's almost
or
like a reality
culturally.
show kind of
Yeah,
ish.
yeah. So, but those tend to be popular. I think the business genre is growing as
Mhm.
business owners tend to be 5 or 6 years behind trends a lot of times, which is great for me because there's a wide open blue ocean of businesses who haven't stepped into it yet. So I see in the next several years that genre increasing a lot. And then internal podcasts as well, where frontline leaders, top line leaders are communicating to their teams, and again building those relationships internally. I think that's going to skyrocket.
Hmm. Do you if somebody how do you feel about this? Let's talk about growing an audience. Okay. And I think you could do that just for the sake, like people get competitive, right? So it's like, oh, I have 403,209 followers or listeners, subscribe. Just in case anybody doesn't know, the currency in podcasting is really subscribers, right? Especially on the Apple one. I'm not iHeart, all the big boys. You want people to subscribe to your podcast. When somebody subscribes to it, every time you publish a new episode, they automatically, sometimes they'll get a notification or a alert, and or automatically downloads into their player or what have you. So that's where the competition. I have 403,709 subscribers. Oh, I have 403,712. People get a little crazy about it. But that's not really growing an audience because you're not engaged. You don't know if you can engage. So talk about how you can use podcasting to grow an audience, if you would.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, your currency is your email list, your email and your text list, because that is how you're going to communicate new episodes. Like subscribers are great, having people subscribe, rating and reviewing, that's important. But from a business perspective, always use the sports analogy of would you rather score 50 points and shoot 100 shots, or would you rather score 50 points and shoot 50 shots?
Hmm.
Right. So for
So
for
the
me,
efficiency piece.
it's about efficiency.
Yeah.
How many people are on your email list that actually open it? Do they click on the links in your email? Do they buy things when you? So I'm looking at it from a business perspective, from the angle of efficiency, and are we able to convert those listeners, those subscribers, to paying customers? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Let me see if we can expand on a little bit. So I'm a new business. Let's use the chiropractor for an example. Chiropractor moves to town, hangs up his shingles, and has been new practice, right? Got 3 clients. Got some bills to pay. He's got to get people in. So he starts podcasting about whatever. Okay. So, along the way, he may pick up people are going to listen to it. People tell people, a lot of word of mouth with podcasting, or you could advertise, but word of mouth is really a better way to go. At what point, how do you feel about converting listeners into clients? And are there any techniques that you might suggest there? Because it's a little bit of a slippery slope, right? Because in my opinion, unless you are pretty front and center, and people listen to my podcast, no, I don't sell very, very rarely on this podcast. My guests, I encourage to, but personally, I got a lot of products I could push, but I don't think this is where I really do it. I do it differently. But at what point does the chiropractor or any other business for that matter convert from being sort of an information source or a personal relationship building about themselves into saying, hey, come on in if you need an adjustment, or come on in if you feel you have something wrong with your spine or whatever, your sciatica or whatever the issue is. Because if you do it too soon, you can lose people because this guy's just selling to me. Mm-hmm. If you wait forever, like I do, you don't make any sales at all. But what's your opinion on that? And if you agree with it, can you give a little bit of technique on how it might work for people?
Yeah, I think it It depends on what your podcast is about, and it depends on the type of listeners you have.
Okay.
The important thing is you have to know your listener. I generally don't sell on my podcast either. I try to give as much value as possible.
Mm-hmm.
My funnel is I want to add so much value that people almost feel guilty and they sign up for my email list. I put them in a funnel. Depending on what they open, what they click, what they don't open, what they don't click, they go into a different funnel, right? And so your email list is where you're going to do that transaction.
So you're supporting your podcasting with some sort of sales funnel, technology somewhere, right?
Yes.
Okay. And some people that's actually another animal that to sort of bring into the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So you could talk that up. Hey, Elzie, I'm Elzie, and hey, listen, if you want my free report, 7 things you must do to have a successful podcast launch, go to podcasttalent.com, and I hope I'm giving the right things here, and sign up for it, and that puts them into a certain information flow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Podcast Town, love the name. It sounds like. How long ago did you trademark this or anything?
It's trademark, yes.
Good thing, because I'm thinking like somebody would have had to taken that name, right?
No, you would think, but no.
I would have thought, man, yeah, Podcast Town. It's like so maybe it was so obvious nobody did it. What's the mission of Podcast Town? Like, what's a typical day like for you running Podcast Town?
Well, so I'll answer your question in two answers. So our vision and mission here at Podcast Town is to create a town where every voice is heard. Nice. Right? Not just the big guys, not just the little guys, but every voice. Typical day. I'm your typical entrepreneur. I have a small team, but I still do a lot of my own stuff, right? Today is admin day. I'm doing books. I'm paying bills. I'm processing payroll.
It's because it's Friday, so we put it off till the end of the week. Like
exactly. There you go.
Very practical reason.
Not my favorite thing to do.
And you don't want to ruin your weekend having to do it, so you get it over with. I know, yes, but yes. We are on the same. We are brothers from another mother in that respect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm always a little cranky on Friday because of that. Because I'm looking at numbers and spreadsheets, and all my money go out the window. But yeah. So and now I'm here talking to you, and so there's media, and I don't do as much of the thing anymore. So a lot of my work is shaking hands and kissing babies, meeting people, helping people, adding value.
And so you're building brand,
building the brand, and yep. Growing the business from the top line. So overseeing the things like the email lists, funnels, and marketing, and all the different things that.
So you're becoming a manager a little bit as opposed to just a performer in a sense.
Yes.
Nice. Hey, this is the Make the Grade podcast. My guest is Elzie. I know I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong. Elzie, tell us your last name. Flenard.
I was just gonna let you struggle with it.
Elzie Flenard. He is from the beautiful state of Wisconsin, which is actually a beautiful state. It's just super cold. And those of you listen to this podcast, he was talking about yourself. Yes or no? Do I like cold weather, people? No, you're right. I do not. Thank you. Anyway, the Make the Grade podcast. We are here to provide you with actions, ideas, strategies to help accelerate you on your journey to success. Whether you're an entrepreneur or a student or a parent, this is stuff you can use. You want to use a podcast, you want to do a podcast, it's fun. It's really fun. I got to tell you one thing though, and Elzie can comment on this. I want your opinion on this in a second. You got to be consistent. I know a lot of people, they get all fired up, decided to start a podcast, had 3 episodes and then they ran out of stuff to talk about. So talk about this. How does somebody sustain some long, like you've been podcasting 6-7 years, if my math's right. How do you sustain it?
Well, for me, again, it goes back to that why. When I started, I didn't start for any other reason, Stephen. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't even care if anybody listened to the show. My only goal was to learn from masters of the craft in business. That was my only goal. And I have a passion for business. I love it. I could talk business in my sleep if that were possible. And so I would say those 2 things, really understanding your why and making sure that it's a passion. Because if you have those two things, when it gets tough at around episode 7, 8, 9, 10, that'll carry you through that because you're passionate about it and you understand why you're doing it.
Yeah. I've seen people podcast for like 2-3 years, like 100 something episodes, and they just one day decide, I said what I had to say. I'm done. I like it. I enjoy it. Hey, a little birdie told me this guy in Wisconsin's got this program called the Perfect Podcast Launch Program. You know him?
I might know him.
Okay. All right. You want to talk about it? And by the way, folks, you want to get into it. This generously going to give you 30% off of it. So tell us about what's the objective of this program? I'm going to guess from the name what it's doing, but let me let you talk about it.
Yeah, so this program, I love it because it's a tweak on what we will commonly think of as a course. It is not a course. You get me. You get a live trainer to walk you through every step of the process with homework.
You got nothing. Total beginner.
Hours. Yes, total beginner. We take you from step A all the way through step Z, and we help guide and respectfully tell you when it's not working, and we guide you through the whole process, which again, it's not like an on-demand course where you pay your money and then you
watch videos and try to figure it out.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
It's a live training where you
how
get
long
the mayor
typically does somebody take? I'm sorry to talk over you. How long do people typically take to get through this? Is it like a month, 12 weeks?
It's a 6-week program. So it's intense, but we get a lot done in that 6 weeks.
Nice. So 30% off. How would people find out about it? How would people reach you? Plug yourself here a little bit.
Yeah, the easiest way is email Mayor, MAYOR at podcasttown.net.
Nice.
And if they're interested in the program, it's right up on our website, Perfect Podcast Launch. And I'm looking forward to the next cohort and helping people get.
Do you wait till you have, I don't know, whatever, 8, 10, 12, 20 people, and then you do it as a group, or is it rotating all the time?
It's rotating all the time. So we, right now, let's see, this is, when we're recording this is January. So we'll be starting our next one here in February.
Okay. You heard that, folks? And listen, this is usually $100,000. You're getting 30,000 off, right?
yeah. What's
what I said? Now, listen, I would encourage everybody to try podcasting. It's fun, and I enjoy it. I love having guests on. I've talked to so many cool people, and a lot of them I've done collaborative things with. Not $1 million deals, but some really neat things, and even people that would probably from the external appear to be competitors of mine. There's always common ground. I'm not saying Elzie is a competitor. But even my tutoring world, I've had other tutors on because there's so many niches and things within the big piece. Anything we didn't talk about you feel is must be heard in this episode here?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a podcaster, Stephen, so we could talk all day. But I would say one thing that we didn't really talk about is how important it is to be organized. To have things like your show flow or your guest outreach flow, your follow-up flow, just being consistent and organized in how you execute your podcast brand will help you, number one, be consistent, and it'll help you to be successful as well.
And by the way, I did a horrible job when I first approached Elzie about this. That's not really true, but no. I know what you're saying though. It's not as simple as just finding somebody, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Because you got to schedule it. You got to make sure your tech is right. You got to turn, you can't see it here. People, I took thousands of pages of notes here. You got to do your research. Anytime you're going to interview somebody, you got to do a little bit of research. If they got a book, I got about 40 books on the shelf where people that I bought their book because they were coming to my podcast and I wanted to, be versed in what they were doing. And most of them are good. You got a book in you? You think you can put a book out on how to podcast, or you don't want to go that direction? You like the hands-on?
Maybe there's a book, maybe not. I don't know.
I know a good book coach if you want to meet him. Right. Course making coach. Hey, Elzie, this was awesome, man. Say your website again and how to get a hold of you again.
Yep. You can email me at Mayor, MAYOR at podcasttown.net, or you can visit us at podcasttown.net.
To see he's the mayor of Podcast Town. See, now if you were Podcast Country, you could have been president at podcastcountry.net.
Well, see, the thing is though, Steve, I'm more of a mayor. I'm the kind of guy that I'll come to your cookout, your kids' birthday parties. I'm a homey guy, and I think that's the the brand,
Nice.
the feel. When
Okay.
you're
I
exposed to
like it.
the mayor, it's a different sense
Okay.
than a governor or a
I
president.
like it. So you're representing the common person
Yeah,
at their level.
yeah. The
This is
residents.
beautiful. Hey, talking about the common person, you want to have some fun here? One of the things I offer my guests is my favorite thing, which is the Fave Five. Can you handle it? So here's what I'm going to do. And this is spontaneous, by the way, people. I don't usually tell people we're going to do this. I'm going to say something. You tell me what your favorite thing in that category is.
Okay.
I'm going to start out with an easy one. Ready?
All right.
Number one, color.
Blue.
Blue. Nice. Any particular reason? Just resonates with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Place to vacation. And don't say Wisconsin.
Actually, I'm gonna say Gatlinburg, Tennessee, was where we did our honeymoon.
Gatlinburg. Wait, that's famous for something. Country music kind of thing.
There's some of that, but the Smokies Mountains.
Nice. You like to hike?
No.
Really? It's just liked it there. All right. No, just FYI, I've tried done this with 80 people. Nobody said Tennessee before. So volunteer state, you got it finally.
Well, my bio said that I kind of go in a different direction.
True. So. You do. He's proving it here. Literally another direction. Food.
Burger for sure.
Keeping it simple.
I'm a simple guy.
Okay. All right. Bucket list. You're a young guy, but you got, anything.
Bucket list. I guess the thing that jumps out is I want to get my pilot's license.
Wow. Like a little plane.
Little plane, just private. No commercial. Just if I want to go to Dominican Republic, I can hop in my plane and just go.
Hey, I'm going to be going. I'm going to Dominican in 2 weeks. Can't wait. Wow. Seriously. Yeah, we'll talk about that off air.
Yeah. Music. I'm a gospel Christian music guy.
Really?
Yeah. Love worship music.
You want to share any?
No, maybe next time. If you have me on, I may or may not be releasing new music this year. If you have me on after it releases, then I'll.
Okay. All right. I may hold you to that. Appreciate it. You got a beautiful voice. I mean,
Thank you.
Nice. Maybe it might be the electronics, but it sounds really good. Beverage.
Vanilla Coke.
Vanilla Coke. I mean, I gotta tell you, except for blue and hamburgers, I don't think anybody else has even come close. Here's a real trick question. This is the last one. Ready? What is your favorite podcast?
Ooh, that's easy. Yeah. Entrepreneur on Fire.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna say Make the Grade. All right, Entrepreneur on Fire. Actually, I know that. That's a good one. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a good one. What's the name of your podcast? Podcast Town?
So I have a couple. I have one that's called Podcast Town Throwdown. And then I have one called Enterprise Now.
I know these are on all the places you get podcasts.
Yes.
Nice. Podcast Town Throwdown.
Yes. Or we talk about growth, how to grow grow at the craft of podcasting, because surprising to a lot of people, it is a craft. How to grow your audience and how to grow your return on investment.
I'm going to step out on a limb and say, if you listen to maybe my first 30 podcasts, I think contest wise, they were fine. But I think production and performance wise, I could do way, way better now. And some of that's just practice. I also have better technology now. I have better equipment and I have a better ability to record it. But it's a learned skill. It is. I think some people are just naturally a little more outgoing or what have you, extroverted, but wow.
Well, that just means that you launched when you should have. I heard the saying that if you listen back to something you did years ago and you don't cringe, that means you waited too long.
Well, there you go. See, not only is he a world traveler, drinking vanilla Coke, standing in the Smoky Mountains, eating a hamburger, but he's a genius. A genius as well. Elzie Flenard, I really appreciate you coming on to the Make the Grade podcast. We are here, audience, to give you actions, to give you tools, to give you strategies to elevate you, to get you to the next level of success, however you define that. So I hope you learned some stuff today. Maybe this is going to be the thing that pushes you to that critical mass to say, you know what, I am going to try podcasting or something else, just creative, just to get the word out there about your business. Because if you don't tell people about your business, guess what? No one else probably will. So you do have to get out there, and podcasting is a fun way to do it. And it is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know how many podcasts there are, but there's way more now than there were 10 years ago or even 3 years ago. And probably going to be way, way more soon. Elzie, anything else? I'm going to give you the final word here.
Just if you're listening, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you need to be in the space. You don't have to use Podcast Town. You don't have to use Dr. Steven, but get a coach, get somebody to help you get in the space, because it's now the time to, build trust, build influence, and to build your brand.
One last thing, Elzie. People don't have to jump in the deep end. I mean, are you willing to talk to somebody for half hour, whatever, 15 minutes, an hour, just to feel it out, make sure it's the right fit?
Of course. I love people. I love to shake hands and kiss babies.
There you go. So there you go. You got nothing to lose. Reach out, feel the vibe, get it going. All right. We're done for today. Let me get the theme music going. There we go. Yeah. All right. Thanks again, everybody. We will see you next episode. And if you get podcasting, let me know. We'll plug it here. I will advertise your podcast for you for nothing. Gratis. So Elzie, Flenard, thank you once again. And we'll see everybody next time.
You've been listening to Make the Grade with the Success Doctor, Stephen Green. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe. For more resources and support, please visit makethegrade.net.